friends, welcome back to Acre Homestead. My name is Becky and today we are going to be making some onion top pesto. The ingredients we're going to use today to make this pesto are some green onion tops, olive oil, walnuts, Parmesan cheese, that's what this is, some pink Himalayan salt or regular salt, that's just what I have, garlic. Now I wish I had fresh, I don't, so we're going to use garlic powder today, and some lemons. I will leave the recipe down in the description below. I've mentioned this recipe in a couple of videos that we are going to make it with some of the green onion tops from the onions. One way to kind of maximize your harvest is to try to use things that you don't typically use. A lot of people just throw these away or they don't even trim their onions and they dry out and aren't usable. And this makes a fantastic pesto. Most pestos, when you think of pesto, is actually made with basil and pine nuts. But you can really make pesto with any green, leafy, tender herb. You can make it with parsley, basil, green onions, cilantro, sun-dried tomatoes, mint. Your imagination is the limitations when it comes to pesto. The only thing I wouldn't probably make pesto out of would be like a really strong herb like rosemary or sage or something like that. And this pesto also uses walnuts as opposed to pine nuts. Pine nuts are traditional in pesto, but pine nuts are about $30 a pound, and that's just not in my budget. So we are going to be using some walnuts today. So the first thing we're going to do is get these walnuts in the oven toasting. I just have the oven set at 350, and they'll be in there for about 10 minutes. We want to watch them pretty closely because we don't want them to burn. With all the oils that they have in them, they can burn pretty quickly. It doesn't have to be the onion tops, but if you have onion tops, I would recommend giving this a try. I harvested all my onion tops last weekend. I do have a video on that if you want to see that. But a lot of them I actually froze. This is probably only about 1/4 of the onion tops that I harvested because I figured this would be a good amount of onion pesto for the year. I hope it is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of keep track of how many pints we make, and then I'll know next year if I need to make more or not. But all we're going to do first to start with is we're going to chop up these onion tops. Because I want to make all of these onion greens into pesto, I'm going to chop them up and measure how many cups we have, and then I'll know how many batches I need to make because the onion tops are my limiting factor. I know I have plenty of the other ingredients, so I want to make sure I use up all these onion greens. So all we're going to do is kind of give them a rough chop because we're going to be putting them in the food processor. The recipe, along with all the cooking equipment used to make this recipe, will be linked in the description box below if you're interested in checking that out. Traditionally, when you make pesto, pesto means pound, and traditional pesto is actually made in a mortar and pestle, but I only have a small one of those, and with this amount, that would not be practical. So we are going to use the food processor today. It's the easiest way to make pesto. So I'm just going to measure how many greens I have. The walnuts are done. They're nicely toasted. There's some browning on them. I did stir them one time. They smell super fragrant and have this beautiful nutty smell. Just like with the herbs, you can use whatever type of nut you want. If you have almonds in your house, or hazelnuts would be really good. Just whatever you have, you can use pecans or pine nuts if your budget allows for that. I really enjoy the walnut flavor. They're very affordable, and this is actually what I used last year when I made this onion top pesto, and it turned out really well. I'm gonna let these kind of cool here just on the pan. They'll finish toasting, and they smell so good. We ended up with 24 cups of green onion tops, and one recipe calls for 6 cups, so we are gonna be making a quadruple batch. So next we're gonna go on and we are gonna grate the Parmesan cheese. So we need 3 cups of Parmesan cheese, which I hope I have enough. I think I ordered one more. I did. So I actually have some different Parmesan cheeses here. This is actually a Pecorino Romano, so it's not technically Parmesan, but it's kind of got the same flavor. So we're gonna use that. This is where I would try not to skimp on quality if you can. These are not actual Parmesan or Reggiano because that is a bit pricey for me for this type of application because you need so much of it. But I did buy a fresh one. If you can, I would recommend trying to avoid the craft stuff in the green bottle if you can. If you can't, that's totally fine if that's what you have on hand. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna just chop these up roughly, and then I'm gonna throw them in the food processor, and we're gonna grate them in the food processor. I'm gonna measure this out so we kind of have a rough estimate of how much we have. So that's 3 cups, but I'm gonna go ahead and grind all the rest of this. This is one way I like to food prep. If I'm already doing something, let's just do a bunch of it, and then I can just throw the leftovers in the refrigerator. So if I follow the recipe exactly, for every 24 cups of onion tops or herbs, I only need 3 cups of Parmesan cheese. And to me, this ratio is not good. I need more Parmesan flavor. My kitchen, my rules. So I have 3 cups in here right now. And I'm gonna measure out another 2 cups, and then we'll save the rest of it and we'll taste it, and we might even be adding some more Parmesan. The last thing we have to prep is just some lemons. I just have a little zester here, and I'm gonna zest 3 lemons. I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna use the juice of the lemons. I don't really want this lemony, but I want the essential oils from the lemon zest. I don't really wanna make my pesto sour, but I kinda want that citrusy brightness. I think that contrasts really well with the nuttiness of the walnuts and the funkiness of the Parmesan cheese. So I'm gonna set these aside. We may use them, we may not. They will be used, just maybe not in this recipe. We are gonna now go ahead and assemble 1 batch of this. So we're gonna start with 6 cups of onion tops. This is 3 cups in here. I'm gonna blend this up just a little bit so I can fit more in here. I didn't think I was gonna quite be able to fit 6 cups in there without getting that chopped up a little bit more. Now we're gonna add 1.5 cups Parmesan cheese, 1/2 cup of toasted walnuts, a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of black pepper, and it would be 2 cloves of garlic, but because I don't have garlic cloves, I'm gonna add 4 teaspoons of garlic. We're gonna turn this on and drizzle in 3/4 cup of olive oil. Time to taste test. We're gonna taste for seasoning and to see if it has enough Parmesan cheese flavor. All right, that is delicious. The nuttiness from the walnuts, like the toasted walnut flavor, and the creaminess and funkiness from the cheese, the little bit of onion. That's the thing with these onion tops is they don't hit you in the face with onion flavor. It's kind of like this lingering flavor that's so good. Now I'm not gonna add the lemon zest quite yet because I'm gonna put this in a huge bowl and then I'm gonna stir it all together and we're gonna like adjust salt and pepper flavor and stuff like that, but super, super happy with how this is turning out. So I'm just gonna keep doing this process until we use up all the cheese, all the onion top, and I'm gonna have a lot of leftover walnuts, but that's okay, so let's keep going. I'm gonna put this batch in here. Now there are so many different uses for this onion top pesto. I used it in a million different ways last year. Of course, we used it on pasta. That was kind of the go-to easy method, but you can use this on pizza as pizza sauce. That was really good. We used that a lot. I made some lasagna and I didn't have any basil and I didn't have any fresh herbs or anything. So I pulled some of this out and I added it to the ricotta mixture and that was really good. When it comes to cooking, I was wondering how long it would last before I got something on my shirt. So I just washed my shirt because I got some pesto on it. We are gonna move up to the bigger apron here. All right, so if you're wondering why I am not measuring out the olive oil, it's because I'm kind of doing this to feel when it comes to like the texture I want. You can decide how thick or runny as you want it. It's all about feel, your kitchen, your rules. I use recipes more as a guideline, and I hope you guys are encouraged by that when you watch my videos, that you don't have to like follow a recipe exactly. Now, I mean, if you're canning or doing things like that, you do, or baking. But when it comes to cooking and things like that, just improvise and taste and readjust and taste and readjust and keep doing that until you have a product you like. This is why I buy in bulk, because I hate running out of things, especially when I'm doing a big project like this. And I've got another thing of olive oil here. I just had a thought that this would be really good on eggs. Fry up some eggs, toast up some toast, put this on the toast, and then top your toast with an egg. That sounds so good. I might actually make that for breakfast this morning. This is our final batch here, so I don't actually have to measure these onions. All right, this is the last batch going in. And then I'm gonna stir all of these batches together. So we're gonna taste for seasoning. I think I can use a little bit more salt. We still need to add our lemon zest. I'm gonna put some more black pepper. One tip, I don't like using those cranked black pepper things because they're annoying and they take forever. But what I do is I'll buy like a pound of black peppercorns, and I'll probably take like half that and I'll throw it in the blender. And I just blend that up And then I put it in a mason jar, and it's not, you know, technically fresh black pepper, but it sure tastes a whole lot better than that pre-ground stuff that you get, you know, in the store, because that, who knows how long that's been sitting ground up in a warehouse. I think I'm gonna add a little bit of lemon juice. Now, if you don't have a garden, but you wanna make a year's worth of pesto yourself, what you can do, and what I've done in the past, is I made a year's worth of basil pesto, and go to the farmer's market and talk to them and ask the farmers there, if you buy a bulk amount of herbs, because basil can be kind of spendy to buy it at the grocery store, will you get a discount? And I've done that before, and I've been able to get massive amounts of basil for a really affordable price. And I do this exact same recipe, but without using onion tops, I use basil. That's tasting better. I'm gonna put the juice of one more lemon in, and then I think we're gonna call that good.
Pesto?
Yeah. I just tasted it again. After adding that second lemon, and that's it. We're there. So we're gonna go ahead and get this jarred up. Before I jar this up, I wanna show you one more thing that I do. I never throw my lemon skins or peels away. I put them in a jar, and there's just distilled vinegar in here, and I use this as cleaning product. And I just put these in the pantry, and this one's almost done. I didn't feel like starting a whole new jar today because my other ones are pretty full too. So I'll be straightening this pretty soon. This is one I started a couple weeks ago, and you can see how bright the lemons still are, and how they, as they steep in here, they get darker and darker. The way we're gonna store this is just in some mason jars. I just have some clean mason jars, and we're gonna use the canning funnel. We're not canning this, we're actually gonna freeze this. My husband just came down here and tasted it, and he said it was really good, so he approves. So just another way I like to kind of make my time more efficient when I'm in the kitchen is I'm gonna take what's left in this bowl of the onion top pesto, and I'm gonna go ahead and make quiche in this bowl. So one, I don't have to dirty another dish, and I'll use this little bit of flavoring in the quiche. And I actually took this pie crust, which I'm gonna roll out in just a minute, out of the freezer yesterday and let it thaw. And if you haven't seen that, I have a video where I make bulk amount of pie crust at once so that I don't have to make it every time I need to make a quiche. So I'm gonna add 10 eggs into this. And then I'm gonna use a little bit of extra of that Parmesan cheese that we didn't use and put into here as well. I just realized I'm making green eggs. Just put 10 eggs in here, and then I chopped up, I had 2 little broccoli heads from the garden. I'm gonna throw that in here. I'm gonna put a little bit of heavy cream. If I had half and half, that's what I would use, but I don't have it, so this is what we're using. A couple splashes of Tabasco, a little bit more of that Parmesan cheese. So this is definitely how I cook. If I'm in the kitchen, I wasn't sure if I was gonna show you this, if it was just gonna be like a just onion top pesto recipe, but this is how I cook. If I'm in the kitchen, I'm trying to do more than one thing at a time. I should have started this actually before I did the onion top pesto, because that would be using my time more efficiently. But then I wouldn't have been able to put the onion top pesto in this. So it was all working out just fine. In all that, I just realized I didn't salt it. I'm gonna put a little bit of salt in it now. I'm just being careful not to touch the bottom of the bottom crust on here. And I think I'm gonna add a few tomatoes to the top. Cherry tomatoes freeze beautifully. You just throw them in the freezer whole, and you put them on the top of quiche, and they kind of become like umami bombs. They're delicious. And this just gets thrown in the freezer, up the oven. In true Becky fashion, I did make a little bit of a mess on these jars, so we are gonna wipe them all off. And we are not canning these. We are just putting them in these jars, and I'm gonna actually freeze them. So that's why I wanted to leave a good amount of headspace there, so it'll allow for expansion. You certainly could freeze these in Ziploc bags. I have done that before, and you freeze them flat, and it does take up less room in the freezer. But when I can avoid using Ziploc bags and plastic, I try to. One, because it's kind of a waste of money because it's a one-time use and then you toss it. But two, if I can reduce the use of plastic, I try to. I'm not perfect. And then I just reuse old lids. And here we go. We got 12 pints plus a little bit extra that I'm making with that quiche of onion top pesto. I couldn't be happier with how this turned out. It tastes delicious. My husband came down here and he thought it was super good. I wish I'd gotten that on camera, but I didn't, so he doesn't like to be filmed. Let me know if you kind of want to see, like when I'm making videos like this where I'm actually showing a recipe, if you want to know what I have going on around the periphery, like what I'm doing at the same time. Like I just put that quiche in the oven and I kind of showed you part of that process. Do you enjoy that, or would you prefer just straight recipes? I'm curious, I don't know what you want, and I want to produce stuff that you guys are interested in watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. If you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. I will have some videos popping up right here, so if you want to watch more of my videos, you can head over there and watch those. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys!